All right, welcome back, everybody, to episode 21 of the Junto. And today we are going to talk about a little bit about atomization and dysregulation, which is something I've wanted to talk about. Sorry, hang on a moment. For a little while, basically, I don't know, there's lots of subjects that I've been wanting to that I thought I would have already covered by now, but I'm taking it as each day comes to me, what it feels like I can talk about for an hour or so each day. Like I thought I would do a stream on music recently, or I was actually preparing notes for a lecture on music around November, and it didn't really happen. I just did a very short talk about it, and sorry, there's loud noise downstairs, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on a volume thing. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I was triggered last night and today writing notes. So I was preparing this music lecture during the fall, and the way I was doing that was, well, I was mostly I was getting into Bob Dylan for the first time, and I was listening to a lot of Bob Dylan CDs, and they were very interesting to me. And then I was contrasting it with going to the most popular pop radio station in my area, which is run out of Boston, and just to get a sense of what top 40 music was. So I sort of was getting a sense of I don't know, just whatever the hell is going on in pop music, which is kind of disturbing. And I just looked up. Okay, well, the reason I was triggered last night was I was writing something about anxiety, and so there is this song that I've heard on the radio at least a couple times now that is it's literally just Somebody That I Used to Know by Godiai, but I guess they just took the whole beat. They took every instrumental from the song and wrote just awful lyrics about anxiety on top of it. I don't know who the artist is, but as I recall, she's just like, wow, it's so bad. It's like there's an elephant stepping on my chest. And I don't know, it's just really, it's a horrible song. However, it is, and it's too bad that I'm familiar with it, but at least it can be used as an example, because last night when I was writing something about deep feelings of anxiety, I noticed, unfortunately, that it's so weird how the psyche uses images, like moving visual images and moving audio images and animations. It's almost like animations and it really is like GIFs. It's like looping GIFs sometimes. And I've never seen, I don't know who this artist is. I've never seen a music video or anything like that, but it still has that way of showing up in my mind. So I wasn't thinking about the song at all, wasn't thinking about music at all, but just in writing about anxiety, I hear that voice singing that song on top of the Godiai beat. Godiai? I don't know. But yeah, and it popped into my head, and I was like, I was triggered. I was pissed off. I was like, I really don't want this in there. And that's the thing. It's like, once it's in there, you have no control over, you can't get it out. You can't erase your memory. The best you can do, I guess, is get a strong hold on your attention and be able to control what's in your mind's eye and when, and where it goes. You can get it out of there. And I guess also, if you strengthen your attention, you can probably, I always think of this as starving parts of your psyche, like negative parts of your psyche, because I think of it in relation to fasting. But you could probably cut that part of yourself off and drain the energy that goes there. Because it's such a weird phenomenon. We are a biological, physiological, spiritual being, and there's an element of, I don't know, it's like by getting that brief radio play in your head, just for that moment where you're thinking about anxiety and you hear that sample, you're strengthening it because it's lighting up. It's getting, I don't know if it's getting blood flow or electricity or what, or both, but there's activity. And I guess if we're able to control that kind of thing, we can disactivate those things that have wound up in our mind. And there's so many things like that because we grow up in a heavily mediatized, or we're inundated with media from a very young age. So I'm sure we all have little things like that. Actually, there was another one. I mean, I don't know if, I'm sure other people can relate to this. I just have like weird, I mean, I don't think it's weird, but everyone has their own particular examples of this kind of thing. Like 2 weeks ago, I wrote this down, so it kind of sticks in my mind because it's just, I hate that this is reality. I hate that this is like what people are brought up into. But I was eating an apple the other day, or I got an apple, and I went to eat the apple, and I thought of, like, there's no way I've seen this in, I don't know, like 20 years. I thought of an episode of Zoe 101 on Nickelodeon where, like they're just talking about some sort of like, I don't even remember exactly what it is, but it's some sort of like, oh, you can tell if a guy's a good kisser from the way he eats an apple or something. And I don't think I like ruminated on that as a kid, but it's so weird because that image that you see on the screen plays into this sexual element of your body, and you remember it in a certain way. And it, like, and then it's just in there. And then 20 years later, you'll eat an apple thinking about nothing, and suddenly you hear like, or like, I don't even, I guess I can try to describe the image, because that's the thing. It's like they show up as images. They're moving images. They're sort of sonic images. I don't have a very clear memory for this kind of thing, for media, or even really for concrete events in my life. It's not super vivid. It's easier for me to remember things about the experience or how I felt about the experience. But anyway, so it shows up, and I see like a shot of like the landscape outside their high school in that show. And it's just crazy that like that's in there. And you know, there's so much stuff like that. SpongeBob quotes, whatever. It's just weird because it is arbitrary. Like, imagine being in the writing room for SpongeBob, and, you know, it's the early days. You're probably having a blast. And it's just weird that the things that you were writing in there, just like the little jokes in there that you're coming up with that are good jokes, or like things like, this also popped into my head for some reason recently. One where it's like, Mr. Krabs saying to SpongeBob, "You're beautiful," and then it just cuts to like the postman was walking by right there, and he's just like, he gives him a look, and it's like that showed up in a writing room between two people, and now it's lodged in my brain irreversibly, and I'm not the only one. It's lodged in like literally millions of brains. So that's the fucked up thing about memes. Someone in the chat says that they're upset by how when I say anxiety, they hear the echoes of that song. It's like, that's the world we're living in. So, yeah, I don't know. So that's just kind of a tangent, or just a random note. But basically, I've just been feeling like, I saw this note from last night where I've been trying to edit these videos, and I hate video editing so much, and it just sucks. So anyway, like I'm just writing notes on what I have to do and where I have to post it and whatever. And I I didn't know I wrote this underneath it. I forgot, but I wrote, "I want to give up so bad." And that is kind of what colored my feelings today. I'm pretty sure I wrote that last night, even though I worked on videos again today, so it's all a blur. But there just is such a urge to give up sometimes, and I've been reflecting a lot on like where certain thoughts come from, and I don't know. Well, I'm considering converting to Catholicism, and so I've been reading a lot of the Catechism and the Bible. But regardless, for a long time, and before that, I've just thought so much about how, like, where do our thoughts come from within us? And because there are clearly, I think most of us would admit if we meditated on it, like we have urges that are not good for us, or we have thoughts that are not in our best interest. Like if we sit down and think about really, like, we've got this one life, what do we want to do with it? We may have such clear goals in mind, and yet at the day-to-day level where we actually are living and choosing, we become overridden by other parts of our psyche that want other things from us. So that's something I've been thinking about I thought about it a lot today. And when I say today, it's sort of a mix of last night and today, because I just stayed up probably until 6 a.m. and then slept till whenever. And so it's a blur. And I wrote like a lot of, I don't know, some, at least like 10 pages of notes, and just trying to process like these parts of myself that are holding me back, or that would want me to give up, or that don't want me to see this project through. And when I talk about this project, it's not like it's my whole life, but it does seem extremely significant to me that I do this, because given my particular interests and set of skills, I think I really need to spend time trying something like this. Actually, during my vocal warm-ups, I opened like just one of these random books that has lots of quotes that kind of have difficult words strung together, but quotes from literature. There was something from Oliver Wendell Holmes that was about how thinking out loud is so good for you, and that is like how if you ever do write a book, that's where your ideas are going to come from. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of just want to, I guess with that as the backdrop, as my sort of self doubt and desire to basically like to have my will govern my passions, because there's such a, like, I'm straight up addicted to the phone. There's no way around it. Like, I've been going most days without using it at all, and then I'll have to come online to do the stream, and I will, after the stream, like, just stay online. Like, I'll have as an express goal after the stream, like, okay, do the basic little editing things that I have to do afterwards, and then just turn it all off and either write or read or go to bed. And I'll wind up just like checking social media for like up to like hours at times. And that's stuff that I just don't give a shit about at all in my actual mind. And yet I'm addicted to it. So I don't know. I'm just I'm thinking a lot in my own life about conquering the will. And there's I don't know if conquering is really the right word, but kind of conquering the passions in a certain way. But anyway, so the two lenses that I want to look at this through today are atomization and dysregulation. And I guess I will start with dysregulation. So there is a, like, if we try to really understand where our thoughts and desires are coming from, it is sort of, there's like a mysterious whirl within the mind. Like, there's just a whirl of desire, a whirl of thoughts. These things come from places that we are not conscious of. They are part of us, but we don't really know them, and we don't control them in the way that I can like snap my fingers right now or move or relatively decide what to say. In fact, my decision to say what I'm saying is also a largely unconscious endeavor. I'm not really conscious of it until a lot of processing has gone down within myself. I think of it as a spiral of kind of different things that want to say different things that eventually get narrowed down as they're all like chaotically interacting with each other, and then some is presented, or and then it's like presented to the consciousness, and you have some level of, you have some vision around that point. It's not totally shallow. I think at times of really high adrenaline or fear, perhaps it's almost just like a point, like you just kind of are wired and you're only aware of that which has processed entirely. But I don't know. It's a difficult thing to talk about because it is sort of difficult to visualize or anything. And but fundamentally it's coming out of our metabolism. It's coming from our being, from our physiology and everything. So we can start to better contextualize where it is coming from when we think about ourselves as this energy creating and consuming organism. And then as an organism which is in a society, which will have more to do with the atomization point. So in my case, like I said, I stayed up late last night trying to figure this out, and there are habits and rhythms to our lives. There are things that we get used to doing, and some of that brings mental comfort and regularity to us, but other stuff brings energetic, metabolic regularity to us, such as sleep or exercise, whether that, or more broadly or more generally, making energy demands on the body, and eating, etc., being placed in different types of environments also awakens and interacts with different parts of your being differently. So yeah, so basically the ultimate, the place I'm going with this is that the gradual atomization of our society is making it very hard to not be dysregulated. It's very hard to be in harmony with the metabolic aspect of your existence. What do I mean by that? In my case, like I guess I don't really know the reasons I stay up late. I just like it. But there's a whole, I guess I will describe this as a sort of a looping system. And it's not a pure circle where things are just influencing each other. But here's one example of a malady in this context. It would be, say you're just not hungry. If you're not hungry, you may not eat that day. And if you don't eat that day, you will probably be inclined to not make many energy demands on your body that day, and you will probably feel rather lethargic. And then eventually you may go to sleep, and you may sleep a long time. You may be sort of, as the days go on with this type of cycle, you may be entering into like it's sort of like hibernation, where your body's like, okay, well, I'm not very active right now, or maybe there's not a lot of food right now. Maybe I'm broke and it's not easy for me to eat or something. In that case, you will wind up in that sort of, I'll just call it a hibernation state. And when you're in that hibernation state, it not only is affecting its continuation, it's not only perpetuating itself through literal energy itself, through what you literally eat or how you exert or how you sleep, but it also changes your desires. It blends in with your passions and feelings, where ultimately that you develop a lethargic mindset as well, and that may affect what your opinion is of what you're capable of doing in your day to day or in the long term. So, what I'm trying to paint a picture of here with this one example as a malady is just how dependent various things are on each other, because no one of those things, sleep, food, energy demands, thought, intent, work, none of those are ruling everything else. It is a delicate balance. And ideally, I think that balance should be oriented in a way where, or it should be calibrated in a way where we are actually getting the work done that we want to do with this one life that we have. And all too often, that's not the case. I guess another type of malady, the first one I described is kind of more what I'm prone to, but something I see in other people is, say, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. Say the mind gets really wired, and maybe you make a lot of energy demands on the body. Maybe you run a lot. Maybe you sleep very little. And I could see food going either way for this, either eating a lot of food or not eating a lot of food, because you kind of you're in this high energy cycle, but it is mostly cerebral instead of like taking a lot of care of the body. It might have more to do with dominating the body with the mind and with your actions. So anyway, just another example, not something I'm as familiar with. But there's one more thing I want to point out for both of those examples and for this general concept of a energy system for the person. Like, so, yeah, and that's the concept of, that's just introducing socialization into it, or like, how are you socializing with other people? Because that can introduce a whole lot into your life, really positively or negatively. But when you are lethargic, you may, regardless of whether it's positive or negative, you may just not seek out those activities with other people. When I say negative, it might be that you think less of yourself, or you think negatively about, oh, those people don't want to see me. Or it could still be positive. You could think, well, I don't know, I like those people, but I just don't feel like it. So just painting a picture of that kind of energy cycle. And now I will talk a little bit about our culture and how increasingly we are atomized and turned into like discrete individuals. Whenever Sorry, this is one of those streams where I'm really thinking out loud, and I don't have an outline planned. So just for context, I'm thinking out loud here. And with the atomization, what I mean is increasingly throughout history, people have been broken up from their communities and participating in the economic element of the society in a discrete and separated way from each other. And one major step in this was the nuclear family, which was I mean, nuclear relates as a concept to the atom to begin with. So there's a clear etymological clue right there. But yeah, so the step there is just to separate the family into this atomic nucleus where it's a mother, a father, and the children, and perhaps the grandparents wind up in the household as well. But ultimately, it is a discretization. I don't know how I would say that, but it's a making more discrete of what was once a very interwoven and dynamic community and process of personhood, process of generating personhood in people. So now, just thinking from sort of the apex of the nuclear family, like that era of the 1950s to now, that is also an era where we see the TV take on a major role in our lives. And so when you introduce the TV, and I'm not saying it was introduced in the 50s, but really blew up in the 50s, and I think color came out at the end of the 60s. I don't really know, but anyway, when you introduce that type of mediatization into the household too, into this atomic household, it starts affecting all the individuals differently, and they may get concepts about the society from the TV shows. They may get ways of talking from the characters in the TV shows, and they may spread that between each other. So there was an atomizing step and then a media exacerbation step that sort of disconnects people from that interwoven traditional fabric of existing on the earth and learning about existing on the earth. And instead it starts coming from the media infrastructure. And now I'll compare that to the more contemporary situation. Like, millennials are the first generation that really stopped having kids in the same way. So I think that is an interesting thing to look at. And also a lot of those millennial couples, as opposed to in the nuclear family where it was mostly the father working and providing for the family and owning the house, paying the mortgage on the house, now millennials are not having kids and they are both working to afford an apartment. And this is occupying a lot more of their time, of course. And by occupying a lot more of their time, it is introducing it like knocks off the balance of that regulatory energy cycle mechanism that I was talking about. And it's a little hard to even say it knocks it off the balance, because our society has been adjusting us to rhythms that are really unbalanced to begin with and unhealthy to begin with. So anyway, so that's just a brief picture of the millennial thing. But what's the media that is introduced to millennials? It is now streaming-based media, and it is frequently on the phone. So now you have a device that you have all the time. So it is if you use it every day, if you use it for 10 minutes every day even, it starts really conditioning you to behave differently because it is a part of your life. And you are disconnected from that fabric that comes from history and the earth. And so you are, through that disconnection, you're very vulnerable. And having that phone introduced to you, you start to, I don't know, I don't want to just call it an acceleration of the TV thing, because there's a lot of things that are novel about it, but it really intensifies how alone you are. It sort of starts atomizing everything, because you don't have kids. You don't think of this family unit. If you do have kids, a lot of them are giving them phones. So everyone is being increasingly atomized and having their psyche conditioned to higher and higher degrees by things that do not come from themselves and do not come from history, and instead are coming from profit incentivized, control incentivized corporations and governments. So anyway, like, I guess the way I will connect these two things here is, like, connect the atomization to the dysregulation, is if you actually want to be well regulated, for lack of a better term, I know I'm not defining that very clearly, but if you want to have some sort of control over your existence, like, we are making tons and tons of free decisions every day. maybe I'll put it like this. We're making tons of free decisions every day. How many of those decisions are drastically influenced by your lifestyle, which is this mediatized and atomized lifestyle, versus imagine this concept of you without the phone, you who never had the phone, but who did have healthy relationships and activities and some leisure time and some work that you cared about. That theoretical version of you, would you be making the same free decisions as you are when you're phoned up, as we all currently are? No. At the very least, you wouldn't be interacting with the phone. But the greater point here is when you know yourself without the phone, or when you're separated from all these cycles that everyone's really normalizing and getting used to, of being this atomized individual person who is trying to figure it all out on their own, and with the help of whatever YouTube videos can give them advice. That compared with someone who goes on this journey of inner knowledge and understanding where these thoughts come from, trying to get a handle on this whirl of desire that influences your actions and, what you say to people, what you do with your life. Yeah, I mean, the point really is just that it's really hard to be that person now. Like, to be atomized is to be dysregulated. So I'll move on from there to, I guess, just a personal example, because I do have, there's a lot of support for the show, and I have support in my life, and there's people I care about. However, I am atomized. Like, I am atomized in that I don't have any of that family or community fabric that in theory could exist and does not even exist. And I have family and I'm connected with them, but it is not a fabric. We have been forced to become atoms and individuals that are separated, and by being separated from each other, we're also separated from our personhood. We just are separated from those relations that make us who we are, understanding where we came from and what we're doing here. Yeah. So that's the case. It's like, I feel like I have, given the culture that I live in, and I wonder about this because there are so few options. It feels like there are so few options in the United States, or at least in this area of the United States that I live in, for even living differently. Like, the assets are all owned by other people. Acquiring those assets is off limits to most of us, even collectively. It's difficult. And so I'm in this situation, and I feel like I have it better than a lot of people that I know, in that I have this network of people I can talk to and rely on, and who care about me and who I care about, and who I feel like I'm going somewhere in the future with. Like, I have friends who I hope will be my friends for the rest of my life. And yet I also am just suffering from this intense dysregulation that is a result from not having an actual fabric of reliance. Like, we don't live together. Our lives are not integrated with each other. Our lives are separate. We are just economic individuals instead of people on the planet. So that's just hard. And that's just what I was thinking about today, because I was just like, man, and I have friends who even do want to help me with the show, but it's just, sometimes it just feels like you're so alone doing your work in the world. So anyway, one more thing I guess I'll talk about here. I was writing here, like, about wanting to, like, strengthen my fortitude to deal with that, where it's just like, because that is the solution ultimately, is like I just have to persevere, and it has to be something I do with my own soul. But we were, we were all made together on the planet for a reason, and there's a lot we can offer each other. And this culture that we live in particular is annihilating all of that through atomization. It's ultimately disintegrating. It's destroying all the human strength that can come through interacting with other people, and instead it's severing all those ties, making them extremely weak, and it's like dust. It's turning us into something with no power to hold itself together. And I guess I'll just end with one more thing here. Looks like this is quiet now. Maybe I just got quieter. So I guess just to go back to where we started for a minute and think about where our desires come from. Like, I guess I was talking to a friend about this recently, and about like depressive thinking and positive thinking, or the types of thought that depression often colors your thoughts in particular ways and paints a hostile picture of the outside world and a negative view of yourself. And to understand that, or to become fluent in that and really recognize when it's happening naturally, you have to take some time to sit with thought and discern the tones and timbres of thought, like these other qualities that are really not informational at all, because we are commodifying our language. It's becoming just little, like, it's as if it's becoming memes. It's just becoming like very small things that we repeat to each other, and people are just increasingly cycling these informational inquiries and answers back and forth to each other. And when you get used to that, and when language is reduced to that in your conscious mind, you miss very intense and significant elements of the human experience. And for example, when you have a thought, particularly, let's say, like a resentful or angry thought or something, like one that comes to mind for me is, say I hear someone walk down my hallway who I just don't really like. I might think something resentful about them in my mind. I might just think like, this is not like really an actual example. Like, this has happened, but not recently. And I don't know, but just like, that person sucks. Like, normally, yeah, you hear someone doing something stupid, you think that person sucks, and then you move on, you're doing whatever you're doing. But I try to hover on those types of thought and reflect on their tones and timbres, like basically other dimensions of the thought than what is readily apparent to me. Things I don't really have an ear or an eye for. Like, timbre is a quality of a musical sound or any sound, and tone is an element of visual data. So, or color, So when I think about that, I think of like, I ask myself, like, where is that coming from? Like, what part of me is just saying that kind of hatefully or resentfully, just throwing it out there and then submerging itself back in my psyche. I start asking questions about who that is and why it's there. And because ultimately, I don't like actually hate anybody. And even people who are bothering me, I can see some good in them. I mean, this connects to just the concept of loving your neighbor or really loving your enemy. And like, no matter what, whoever I'm thinking about, if I try to control my thoughts and re-render them or mold them like clay in my mind, I can suddenly change the tone and timbre into something that is more charitable than something that is just harsh or negative. And so I guess where I'm going with this is I thought of this example earlier today. I don't think anyone walked by today who made me think of that, but like I was thinking of it in this context of just being lethargic, being stuck, feeling like I wanted to give up on the project and just lie down, just sleep indefinitely. And okay, so yeah, in that context, and just reflecting on this random thought that I had weeks ago, I was able to remember that I can really mold and control my thoughts of all sorts. And that there is that negativity about all of my lethargic feelings of surrender or desires to just give up on what I actually think would be good for me in my life. So, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess I don't really know how to make my point here, but it just sort of, these were two unrelated things that I found coming together in a way that I was surprised by. Because I was just talking to a friend last night about this sort of negative versus positive thinking and learning how to control your thoughts, because I think it is alien to us in this disconnected and mediatized society, because we learn all these things through media. We're not learning them through spending time in our psyche or with other people. So, and when we hang out with other people, they're also just influenced by the same media machine. So anyway, yeah, I wrote here when I was taking notes, I wrote instant language, commodified opinions, and commodified identities will take that all away from you. Reflexive responsives get faster and faster. We get sure of ourselves and what we want to say. We are so self-assured we know what we know. I think we need to doubt and wonder about those things that we are so assured of. And as we develop that literacy for reading thoughts, like reading the color and timbre, so should we develop our muscles for coloring our thoughts with intention. And that's that concept of re-rendering, like clay. Like those are muscles that are weak in most of us. We're like a knee-jerk society. We're not rising. We're not trying to elevate ourselves at all much of the time. And that's because that's the world we live in. It does not encourage us to be good people, even. It's, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, relating this to my feelings of like laziness or wanting to give up, I wrote, connecting this to the idea of someone that I just don't like. Like I wash that thought, or rather through mental muscle, I re-render that thought. I take away from it all those qualities that feed the resentful, lazy, content, coping parts of me, and I imbue that thought with charity and love. I recognize that I don't and never will know the intricacy of that person. I give them a break. And in doing so, I give myself a break from the rule of this society and recall and can be revitalized by the metaphysical good whose strength makes our skyscrapers and abusive bonds alike seem as delicate as dust piles and cobwebs. So, yeah, and I mean, I'll just read the rest of this, I guess. When you get a taste for that which is beyond this world, you wish to pursue it, to develop and widen your capacity for bringing it forth, to starve off those hateful parts of yourself. Yeah. We make many free decisions every day that build us up or tear us down. We have ever-renewing opportunities to take the steep path. And the other thing about the steep path is it really does get easier as you go. I almost wanted to call this stream like falling off the wagon or something, because I felt like I had a good run going, and then I was just kind of miserable today. But in those periods where you are able to keep rolling with this and doing your work and bringing love into your life, it is shocking how much it gets easier, and how those things that used to be passionate compulsions become completely uninteresting. Or like even I don't think I want to be chased for the rest of my life, but until recently that didn't even seem possible. And then recently I was like, oh, well, that's like, I could do that. And that was a thought that until pursuing these things and reading these things, it didn't really seem possible until I became more familiar with the concept and more familiar with where my desires actually come from. So with that increased literacy of what my thoughts are and how my actions are formed in my being, it suddenly seemed more possible for me to do things that I'd never thought were possible. So anyway, that's the gist. I appreciate everyone for checking it out. Kind of a slow one, but sometimes I just have to talk it out. And the alternative is I don't stream at all, and I don't think that's good for me or anybody. I think I would rather do this because I want to turn this stuff into writing as well. I'll be here on Monday, but then I'll actually not be here at all the following week because I'm doing a job somewhere. And hopefully I can turn a few of these arguments that I'm presenting on the stream into zines or posts or whatever it is. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you Monday, 9 or 10. I don't know. I'll create the pre-stream page so you can see. It'll either say 9 or 10 on that day. So, all right. Have a good night and have a good weekend.